Hello and welcome. It's Kevin Doherty here from Dream Practice Coaching and BuildYourDreamPractice.net. And in this video, I want to have a rather frank discussion with all of the acupuncturists out there in private practice and really get to the bottom of why so many acupuncturists out there continue to struggle in private practice. And as a coach and having been in this field for many, many years now, I see that so many amazing, bright, committed, gifted practitioners are struggling more than they ever should in their own practice. And it's really my mission to change this because I have an absolute love for the profession of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I think you're doing absolutely amazing work out there if this is the profession you've chosen, and you definitely deserve to get compensated very, very well for this kind of work. It is possible. Yet, so many acupuncturists really come up against a lot of financial limitation, a lot of stress and burnout. And we need to change this. We need to get to the bottom of why this is really happening. And quite honestly, start a revolution amongst practitioners and really get to the essence of what is going to give them long-term fulfillment, prosperity, and enjoyment in their work. So that's the intention of this video. I apologize beforehand, at least partially I apologize if I get on a soapbox here and I'm speaking in a very opinionated way. You may not agree with everything that I say here, or you may. It really depends on your own experience going through school and building your own practice. But what I'm going to point out here are recurring themes that I see time and again that I think are ubiquitous in this profession. So let's go ahead and jump in. It's really just my intention to help you. And this video, I think, is going to highlight a lot of the obstacles that acupuncturists are facing and really come at it from more of a solution-oriented perspective, though. I don't want to just rant about the profession. That's certainly not my intention. I'm only shooting a video like this to help you. I want to make sure that you're clear on the challenges, you're realistic about them, but you also have a very focused game plan in place that will serve as an antidote to these challenges. So the first thing that I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to also preface everything that I'm about to say by saying this. This video is not about external circumstances. I'm not going to talk about the economy. I'm not going to talk about the healthcare system. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the economic, social, and political circumstances out there that may be impacting your practice on some level. Yes, I think external circumstances do play a role, and I'm not going to discount that at all. But I think it's so easy to put so much of your focus on that or onto issues like how much competition there is in an area or how much experience you have or lack of experience. Honestly, I don't think your success really matters at all in relation to these issues. I don't think it's really about that. I think there are much more fundamental aspects and factors at hand that ultimately determine the bottom line of your success as an acupuncturist in private practice. So that's more my focus in this video. And the first thing that I want to say is this: that acupuncturists just aren't taught how to market well. They're not taught how to market effectively as they're going through their training program in school. And most schools have one measly course on practice management and business development, and that's it. And honestly, from everything that I've witnessed, and certainly in my own experience, that class is quite weak, and it doesn't really get to the bottom line, to the essence of what it takes to create success as a private practice owner. So the real issue here is that so many acupuncturists are graduating from school, and they don't have the proper foundation, the right knowledge, the right skill set to draw from in order to make it in business. They might be very good at acupuncture. They might have very good rapport and an ability to listen well and connect with people, and that's very important. But what they're missing is a really deep understanding of marketing and business development. So that was certainly my experience. When I graduated acupuncture school, I knew absolutely zero about marketing, about business, about entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about these subjects, and frankly, they didn't even interest me. They weren't even on my radar screen. So I had to learn the hard way. I had to go through a lot of trial and error and really immerse myself in a marketing education that, fortunately, I developed a passion for. But I see a lot of acupuncturists are still struggling in this regard. They don't really know where to turn. They don't have the right resources in place to really get the right education, the right marketing foundation. So it's also the case that most teachers in acupuncture schools struggle to make it in private practice themselves. And what happens is that they project their own struggles onto the students. And I see this time and again, and it certainly was my experience in school, that a lot of teachers are actually teaching because they couldn't make it in private practice. And therefore, they have to kind of fall back on a teaching gig. And inevitably, they end up kind of projecting their own struggles onto their students and telling them really limiting and damaging beliefs like, oh, it's going to take you at least 5 years to even break even in your practice, or don't expect to make any money in this profession, or there, if you got into the healing arts to make a really great living, forget it, it's just not possible. I mean, you hear these things a lot. They're almost like mantras that are repeated to the entire acupuncture community. So once again, it's my intention to reframe your belief system and to challenge these limiting beliefs so that you can decide on your own terms what being in private practice looks like for you. And what I don't want is that you sell yourself short and you buy into a lot of what you may have been taught up to this point. It's a very wide open experience having a private practice, and I can assure you, you can generate and create as much success and as much prosperity as you want, but it really has to do with having this foundation of marketing and business development in place. Most licensed acupuncturists really have zero marketing or business background to draw from. You probably didn't go to acupuncture school having previously been a business consultant or in sales or in marketing. You probably came from a more artistic or creative background, or you probably have a fairly eclectic background to draw from, but most LACs don't really have a business background. And because of this, that they get out there in the business world, they get out there in private practice, and they go through like a mild freak out stage where they just don't really understand what it takes to make it in practice, because they don't know what to do. It's like, do you advertise? Do you blog? Do you do social media and Facebook? Do you go to networking events? Like, how does all this stuff work? What works the best? They just don't. They've never been taught this stuff. So if that's been your experience up until this point in your practice, I want to reassure you that that is definitely not your fault. I mean, I think it's actually a disservice that is done to so many acupuncture students in these schools, that there isn't more of a focus on practice development and on marketing. And I think, a lot of the clinical education is fine. I don't think there's a real issue there a lot of the time. But it's really the business development skills that are missing. And a lot of these schools are throwing their students out into the world without any real clear understanding or blueprint or plan in terms of how they're going to make it in private practice. So that's my first insight here, is that acupuncturists just aren't taught how to market effectively. Now, if we take that a step further, what we actually see is that most acupuncturists actually hate marketing. They hate it. They have like a loathing for the whole process of promoting themselves. They think it is just distasteful. They think it's evil, inauthentic, beneath them. They think it has nothing to do with their healing skills or with working with patients. On top of this, many acupuncturists are very self-conscious, and they're sensitive, they're introverted, and they care a lot, maybe too much, about what others think of them. So they never want to be perceived as arrogant or boastful either, which causes them to often undersell their services. So in some other professions, you see this a lot, where there's a lot of just kind of pride and the swelling ego about, how great you are, and you just want to get out there and do your thing and work with as many people as you possibly can. Most acupuncturists don't have that mindset. If anything, acupuncturists tend to be overly humble and completely unwilling to own their unique gifts a lot of the time and project those out into the world. So, and I think there's actually something admirable about that you don't want to be perceived as arrogant. You don't want to come off as just this inflated ego, and you might have a belief that that's what it takes to sell your services. And if that's what it takes, you're just not interested because it's not congruent with who you are and with your values. I totally get that. But what we have to realize here is that this is a fundamental problem when it comes to promoting and marketing any kind of business. And what we're looking for here is a middle way. And I'm going to get into some solutions here in a minute, I promise. I'm not just going to focus on all the problems that this profession is facing, because I think that's just one side of the perspective here. We want to make sure that you have solutions in place as well. But it's one of my missions in Dream Practice Coaching is to help you as an acupuncturist actually learn how to love marketing. And what that entails is redefining what marketing actually is. So if you've previously thought of it as this really distasteful, inauthentic process that you kind of have to sell your soul to be a part of, I can see why you'd think that, but I also want you to know that's a very limited way to think of marketing. And in fact, from a new perspective that we're going to draw from here, it is actually inaccurate. It's not really what marketing is. So we get to define what marketing is, and my goal is to help you define it in a way that you get passionate about it and you start to love marketing. And if you can do that, everything starts to sync. Things start to fall in place in a much more constructive way when you can learn how to love marketing. So what it takes is redefining it and coming up with your own definition that it feels very empowering, inspiring, and solution-oriented. Another huge problem and trend in the acupuncture community is that many acupuncturists tend to have a poverty mindset. So they tend to devalue or judge money as negative. And I see this a lot. A lot of acupuncturists really just wish money was out of the equation. Like, if it wasn't for money, I would be happy. I would be doing the work that I love and everything would be fine. The fact that money's involved really kind of taints the whole thing, and it makes it more stressful. It makes it a lot less enjoyable and fulfilling. So a lot of acupuncturists tend to look at money also as separate from the healing work that they offer. So money is this kind of foreign, kind of separate outside entity that has to be included in their business, but what they really just want to do is work on their patients, help with their issues in life, and really put all of their focus there. And money is just this peripheral, almost like nuisance that they have to focus on. Now what happens when you have a poverty mindset and you don't really value money is that you're going to cut corners in the marketing of your business. And what that looks like is that you tend to put the bare minimum into very, very important assets like your website. So if you have a website that promotes your acupuncture services in a way that is generic, that looks cheap, that cuts corners, I actually think that is negatively selling what you do. And it shows your audience, it shows your local community that you're kind of a cookie cutter business. And you see this a lot with a lot of the acupuncture websites out there. So in order to be a really good marketer and a really good entrepreneur in general, you have to welcome money into the equation. And money has to be seen as an integral aspect of your practice and, on a bigger picture, your overall life and spiritual development. So for me personally, when I started to welcome money into the equation of my life, it was one of the greatest spiritual catalysts that I'd ever had in my life. I can promise you that. And I never expected that. It actually came as kind of a surprise. But I realized for me personally, by avoiding money or treating it as this unwanted entity and then shifting over into welcoming it and reframing my beliefs, it changed me so fundamentally on so many levels, and it helped me to reclaim so much of my power in my life. And I would suspect that it might be the same for you if you're watching this video right now. Maybe not overtly. Maybe it's a subtle thing for you, or it might be overt. It's hard to say, but there's probably something in this conversation for you that is worth taking a look at and just kind of gauging your overall relationship with money so you can determine, is money a source of generosity and connection and joy in your life, or is it a source of stress and limitation and burden? It's generally going to be one or the other. So as an acupuncturist, I want to make sure you have a prosperity mindset. And once you start to kind of switch over into that way of relating to money, everything starts to flow in an entirely new way in your business. Another way that this tends to manifest is that acupuncturists often charge too little and give too much. I see this all the time in the coaching work that I do. So many acupuncturists will give to the point of personal exhaustion, and yet they're only charging like sometimes $25, $45, or $50 a session, and they're spending like an hour and a half with a client. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how can you do that and have a sustainable practice? It's impossible. So we have to find a way for you to have a very healthy boundary in terms of how much you give, how much you receive, and make sure that that's a sustainable, very energizing framework that you've created for your own acupuncture practice. So many acupuncturists also aren't very clear on their own unique value. And this is a big point as well. And I think it's a little bit more subtle than some of the other ones around marketing. I think you might have heard those before or been at least clued into those. This is one that you might notice after a few years in private practice and perhaps seeing several hundred or even several thousand patients, that there's this dynamic at work that becomes increasingly uncomfortable over time. And this is what I noticed, okay? So, and especially in the early phases of my career doing Chinese medicine. So what happens is that a lot of acupuncturists end up offering symptomatic treatment that largely focuses on the suppression or alleviation of pain and discomfort. And they don't know how to intentionally attract the right people to their work because their marketing skills are deficient, and therefore the people that they bring in, it's kind of a random process. And therefore they attract a lot of people that maybe aren't the best fit for what they have to offer. So if you're trying to be all things to all people and you basically will treat anybody with a pulse out there, I can promise you that is going to lead to burnout for you. Maybe not now, but down the road, your kidney jing, your qi is going to be destroyed from that process. There are certain people out there that will most benefit from what you have to offer, just based on the unique kind of configuration of your gifts, your talents, your values, and just where you shine in the field of Chinese medicine. So if at this point you feel like more of a mechanic than a healer, this is what's going on. Maybe you feel like you're under all this pressure to produce immediate results for people, to just annihilate their pain, and patients will often come in for like 1, 2, or maybe 3 treatments, and whether their pain is better or not, they're out of your practice, right? This is a very, very common trend, and a lot of acupuncturists aren't even kind of clear on how to articulate this, but it's something that I see a lot, and it's one of the primary sources of burnout, of stress, and a lack of fulfillment in the profession is working with people that want you to produce immediate and amazingly profound results for them. So you're put in this position of either being a miracle worker or a mechanic who just annihilates their pain. And what that does is it kind of eliminates, or at the very least minimizes, your ability to shine as a coach, as a teacher, as somebody that can help them in a whole life way. I call this whole life healing. It's a whole life equation, right? Like, it's not just like they come in, they have shoulder pain, you try to annihilate their shoulder pain and they're out of there. You probably want more than that out of your practice. You want to work with people that are looking for deeper levels of transformation and healing. And yet you aren't quite clear on how to set up your marketing so that you're really attracting those kinds of people and educating them effectively, right? So this is a dynamic that I noticed early on in my career doing acupuncture. And it's something that, I kind of came to a breaking point with, where if I didn't transform that personally, it was going to lead to me not offering any sort of treatment anymore to my patients. I just couldn't do it. It felt, kind of inauthentic and unsustainable. So what I did is I definitely did some soul searching, and I came up with some new ways of marketing and educating my patients, and that's a lot of what I coach on now, is how to really combine marketing with powerful education. So you're working with people that get it, that want what you have to offer, and that are willing to embrace this mission that you might have to offer whole life healing to them, not just the suppression or elimination of their immediate symptoms. So that may or may not be a primary issue for you right now. For a lot of the acupuncturists I've worked with, it certainly is, and maybe they weren't even aware that it was until we brought it up in our work together. But it's a big one. I see it a lot, and I just wanted to highlight that for you just to make sure that you're aware of the vulnerability that you might have to go in this direction. And a lot of it just harkens back to getting more clear on what you are really about. What is your purpose in doing this work? What is your unique value? Who do you really love to work with? Who's your ideal patient? How would you define the person that can most benefit from what you have to offer? So this is all marketing. It's how you develop your marketing skill. So let me just step back for a minute here and ask you this. Can you relate to any of this right now? I mean, is this you in your practice? Maybe you're new to practice, maybe you've been at this for a few years now, but is there something in this conversation that sparks a heartfelt connection for you in your private practice? Most likely the answer is yes. And if that's the case, I think it's probably not random why you're here, and there's a really good chance that the information, the resources on this website can help you. Because I've been there and I know what it's like to try to grow a practice. And I also know there aren't many resources out there that can genuinely help, that are coming at it from more of an insight perspective, and that are looking at it, I think, from more of a causal level, at a root level, rather than just giving you generic marketing information or even generic personal development information. The work that we do is exceptionally unique, and building a practice, working with patients, putting needles in them, offering therapeutic suggestions, this is exceptionally unique work, and it's easy to feel isolated doing it. It's easy to feel like there isn't much community out there, much integration. And that's another main theme that I see, is that a lot of acupuncturists definitely feel like they're practicing in isolation. They're practicing in a bubble or in a vacuum. So it's my goal and my mission in Dream Practice Coaching to bring more acupuncturists together to help you form kind of mastermind groups and community here, so you can really connect and collaborate with like-minded practitioners out there who are going through the exact same challenges and who have a lot of the same goals that you do. I've already done a lot of that in the group coaching work that I've done up until this point, where we've had literally hundreds and hundreds of acupuncturists joining my group programs, which is fantastic, and I love to see that. But it's still just scratching the surface. I mean, there's still a long ways to go to create real unity, organization, and kind of a consolidated energy in our profession, so that it's impacting more lives, and we as individual practitioners feel more empowered, feel more inspired, and really have the right tools to succeed. So now that we've highlighted some of the main dilemmas, obstacles, and problems that acupuncturists face, I want to make sure we're coming up with a few solutions here. And on this website, you're definitely going to see a lot of solutions, a lot of information that is meant to help you overcome some of these challenges. But let's cover some of that in this video too. So make sure you have at least some kind of at least like a bullet point outline in place to really solve some of the main challenges you might be facing. So the first thing I want to say is you want to think like an entrepreneur. You probably to this point have been very, very identified with being a clinician or a healer, and that's been the primary kind of role you've been in, which is fantastic. I don't want you to change that, but I want you to open yourself up to become an entrepreneur. And what that means is that you develop a more empowered relationship with money, you become more passionate about marketing and business development. You want to just, in general, develop your marketing skill set as an acupuncturist. So really look at a lot of the information on this website and some of the resources I'll share in this video in just a little bit, and really immerse yourself in your marketing education so that you are merging your clinical skill set with a marketing skill set. And it's really the synthesis of these two skill sets that is going to create the success that you want. You want to become passionate about marketing and business development. So it's not just about developing and learning these skills. If you have a sincere passion for marketing, that's where you're going to find the most success. If you love marketing as much as you love healing and offering your clinical skills, then we're in business. Now we're talking. And it's my mission and it's my goal to help you merge those two in a way that becomes seamless, where you really can't even separate out marketing from healing. As we discussed, you want to cultivate an empowered and prosperous mindset in relation to all aspects of your practice and how you work with patients and the treatment process you take people through and how you get out there in the community and promote yourself. The more empowered and prosperous you are in your mindset, the more inspiring you're going to be to others, and the more the word of mouth machine and just local kind of buzz is going to take off in your favor. And mostly, you want to take massive action. I see a lot of acupuncturists that are, I think, overly contemplative and overly reflective, and they have this idea that if they just meditate and they work with their mind and maybe they use the law of attraction and focus on what they want, that everything is just going to magically fall into place. And trust me, I'm a huge believer in the power of the mind to create, the external circumstances that we want, but it has to be backed with consistent and very productive action. And it's this merging of an empowered mindset and massive action that is going to give you the success that you want. So most acupuncturists, simply put, are a little too yin, and they need to get a little bit more yang in the way that they relate to their practice. So get out there, hand out more cards, build an amazing website, do a lot of advertising, use networking groups, get out there and do a lot of public speaking, and just do everything you can to build and promote your practice. And the resources and training you're going to see on this website are meant to help you do exactly this in a great deal of depth. So I have 2 resources to share with you at this point. So if you've resonated with the information in this video, if it makes sense to you, and you've connected with some of this, the first thing that I would do is go to prosperouspracticenow.com. Check out my online membership program. This membership is just packed with marketing and practice management information. A lot of acupuncturists have just totally raved about this program. It's $1 for the first month, and it's a very small fee for any additional month you stick with it. But it'll give you a very in-depth level of marketing support at a very, very affordable price. And that's definitely kind of my gift to the acupuncture community, is to help you in this way and give you a lot of powerful training at a very low-cost price point. You can also go to dreampracticewebsites.com. Go ahead and click the Contact tab to set up a free consult with my web designer, Rachel. She's a wonderful web designer. And if you've looked at any of my other marketing materials, you know that I say this a lot. Your website is the hub of every single thing you do to promote your acupuncture practice. So we set it up in a very specific way that is search engine optimized, that has lead generation so you can stay in touch with people, that has good copy, really good images, and is higher end than a lot of what you're going to see in generic templates or some of the other services out there. So go ahead and discuss your needs with Rachel. She's extremely busy, so definitely take advantage of that consult if you're serious about your success and you're ready to move forward. So once again, my name is Kevin Doherty. If you're new to my work, it's a pleasure having you here. I really hope this video has helped you out and you've connected with some of this information. And yeah, whatever anybody else has told you about the possibilities of your own success, I want to reaffirm this message for you. You can create a very successful and prosperous practice, and you can take that to whatever level you want. And that's entirely up to you. But what I encourage you to do is to really immerse yourself in the skill set of marketing and promotion, learn to love it, do it in a way that's authentic to you, and that's where you're going to see the most success in private practice. So yeah, once again, hope this helps you out. Have a great rest of the day, and feel free to connect with me on Facebook at facebook.com/dreampracticefan-page and check out some of my posts there. We have a pretty active community on that page for sure, and I'd love to have you as part of it. Thanks again, and have a fantastic rest of the day. Take care.